Shalom and welcome to YPS and Noah High Courses dealing with Messianic Prophecies. I am Dayvaughn Mays. Thanks to everybody who has joined us today. Shout out to Diana, Tanisha, and Lewis, Mr. Ross, and Mr. Dave. We will be dealing with Psalm 22 today concerning Messianic prophecies that are, I guess we can call them our brothers and sisters who have been coming out of the church, because a lot of people have been coming out of the church, who have been basically, misguided into thinking that this is a Messianic prophecy. So we're going to dive into it, and I'm going to show my screen. Ross, if you will allow me. People have been liking that here lately, so I've been sharing my screen on Tanakh Talk. I'm getting a lot of good feedback on the Tanakh Talk series. Shout out to William on Tanakh Talk. For having me on there. I'm going through Isaiah 53 on there. So let's grab this. Can y'all see my screen?
Loud and clear.
All right. So y'all see how many slides? I got 60 slides, but I'm gonna break this up into part 1 and part 2 because it's a lot of information and I don't want to go past an hour like I did last week. So let's get into it. So Psalm 22, who is this about? Excuse me. So I just want to say, like a lion, right? This is the key phrase that everybody's having problems with. So, but the puzzle will unravel and you will see the deception jump out at you like a lion, right? I got jokes, right? So a cherry-picked verse, Matthew 27:46. About 3 p.m, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me, right? So this is from Psalm 22:1. The NIV says, for the director of music, to the tune of the dove of the morning, a psalm of David. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? So the New Testament really doesn't quote the entire verse, just the beginning of it. So if we continue in Psalm 22, there's a few things that, doesn't fit with the Christian doctrine. Verse 2 says, my God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer, by night, but I find no rest. So would Jesus pray and God not answer him? If he was God, he doesn't talk to himself. He doesn't answer himself, right? That wouldn't make any sense. Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One. You are the one Israel praises. So this is Jesus speaking. He's telling you he's not God because he's not the one Israel praises, right? And you, our ancestors, put their trust, they trusted, and you delivered them. So this is putting this all off on someone else and not himself. But who is praised in the churches, right? You go to church, you're going to hear Jesus 1,000 times, and they might talk about God once or twice, right? But overall, Jesus this, Jesus that, right? But it says right here, you are the one Israel praises. So, do the math on that one. So this is what they've done. They've isolated the verses, right? So let me do this. Matthew 27:34-35. They gave him vinegar to drink mingled with gall, right? So we can see how the New Testament writer has isolated a verse that ignores the psalmist saying, he is foolish and a sinner, but since he also says in Psalm 69:21, they gave me also gall from my meat, and in my thirst, they gave me vinegar to drink. So they picked the verse with the gall, right? But when you read Psalm 69, what else does it say? Psalm 69:5, oh God, thou knowest my foolishness, and my sins are not hid from thee. So if this fits what happened to Jesus, was he the same sinner in Psalm 69:5? If the beginning of the chapter is about a sinner, how do you jump to speaking about Jesus, right? Psalm 22 also starts with a sinner speaking. On top of the whole context is a whole thing about David going through some troubles, right? Now, are the troubles brought about by the scribes and the Pharisees? No. David has other issues, right? So This sounds similar. Again, on the surface, Matthew 27:34, they offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. Psalm 69:21 says, they also gave me gall for my food, and for my thirst, they gave me vinegar to drink. When you isolate the verses, it sounds real convincing. But when you go into Psalm 69 and see that the beginning of it's talking about a sinner, we have a problem. There's other problems too. So sins and transgressions. Now we know the Christians love to go to the Septuagint, right? So this is how the Septuagint reads in Psalm 22:1. For the end concerning the morning aid, a psalm of David, O God, my God, attend to me. Why hast thou forsaken me? The account of my transgressions is far from my salvation. The account of my transgressions, not Israel's, right? Because they're going to say, oh, he's taking on the sins of people. No, the Septuagint says the account of my transgressions is far from my salvation. The Dewey-Rames Bible says, unto the end for the morning protection, a psalm for David, O God, my God, look upon me. Why hast thou forsaken me? Far from my salvation are the words of my sins. Do we even need to continue? We don't even need to continue at this point, but how do Christians ignore this when they love the Septuagint so much? The account of my transgressions is far from my salvation. Far from my salvation are the words of my sins, not nobody else's. The Catholic Public Domain version. Unto the end for the task of the early morning, a psalm of David, O God, my God, look upon me. Why have you forsaken me? Far from my salvation are the words of my offenses. So we got three translations saying this person in Psalm 22:1 is a transgressor, a sinner, or somebody who has offenses. And it says my offenses, my sins, my transgressions. How do you get away with this when you want to put this off on saying that the Masoretic text translated the like a lion wrong? What about the Septuagint saying Psalm 22:1 is about a sinner? How does that get ignored? Like a lion instead of they pierce, right? This is the one of the problems of Psalm 22. Verse 16, for dogs have surrounded me, the congregation of the wicked has enclosed me, they pierced my hands and my feet. So the footnote for the New King James Version says, with some Hebrew Masoretic text, the LXX and Syriac, the Vulgate, like a lion instead of they pierced. Like a lion instead of they pierced. Why would it say like a lion? What's the significance of that? Why would they change that, right? Excuse me. So we got a decision to make. The argument here is the Masoretic text says like a lion, but the Septuagint says pierce hands and feet. That's what the Christians want, right? This was what the Septuagint says. For many dogs have compassed me. The assembly of the wicked doers have beset me round. They pierced my hands and my feet. But if you're going to go with the Septuagint version, then you got to accept verse 1. For the end concerning the morning aid is Psalm of David, O God, my God, attend to me. Why hast thou forsaken me? The account of my transgressions is far from my salvation. So do you want pierced hands and feet or my transgressions? If you're going to go with the Septuagint, you got a problem. You got to pick one. Doesn't work, right? Translations from Aramaic. My God, why have you left me and have removed from me my salvation in the words of my folly? My folly. Lamsa Bible, my God, why hast thou let me to live? And yet thou hast delayed my salvation from me because of the words of my folly. Why are they translating it like that? Why are they telling you that this person has problems that are his problems, not nobody else's problems? So that's one of the, conclusions we can already come to, that if you're going to go to the Septuagint or these other translations, in those other translations will say pierced, but the beginning of the psalm discredits the whole argument, right? So what is this? What's up with these bulls, lions, and dogs, right? Psalm 22:12. Many bulls surround me, and strong bulls of Bashan encircle me. Psalm 22:13. They gaped upon me with their mouths as a ravening and a roaring lion. Well, if we already talking about a lion before we get to Psalm 22:16, wouldn't it make sense that a lion would come up later, or just simply piercing hands and feet? So what's going on? The contemporary English version says, brutal enemies attack me like a pack of dogs, tearing at my hands and feet. So we got dogs, bulls, and lions tearing at somebody's hands and feet. These are all figures of speech. These are people. David was a warrior, and he's basically comparing people to animals, right? Now, where in the New Testament does anybody deal with anybody from Bashan? Because it says, many bulls surrounded me, strong bulls of Bashan encircle me. Was the Romans from Bashan? Was the scribes and Pharisees from Bashan? Because this person says in Psalm 22, which is David, strong bulls of Bashan encircle me. So who dealt with Bashan, right? Dogs and lions, they do what? They hunt, right? If you ever watch lions and dogs hunt as a pack, they work together. So the Good News Translation says, an evil gang is around me, like a pack of dogs that close in on me. They tear at my hands and feet. So this is not somebody being pinned up to a stake. This is somebody who's, they're trying to trap him, right? If you ever see a pack animals, they grab from all angles. And if you take somebody's arms away, they can't run, right? That's why they're tearing at his hands and his feet. The JPS Tanakh says, for dogs have encompassed me, a company of evildoers have enclosed me. Like a lion, they are at my hands and my feet. They're pinning them down so he can't run away, right? This is war. David was a warrior. Jesus was already confined, right? He was already, bound, or he being crucified and beat up. He's not going to run away anyway. So it's not like they need to gather around and make sure he doesn't run, right? The NET Bible says, yes, wild dogs surround me. A gang of evil men crowd around me like a lion. They pin my hands and feet. So this person is being pinned in like a fight, not because they're about to crucify him, right? So he trapped and closed in. This sounds more like a battle than a crucifixion. So in the Good News Translation, it says, an evil gang is around me like a pack of dogs. They close in on me. They tear at my hands and feet. The International Children's Bible says, my strength has dried up like a piece of, I have a typo there. My strength has dried up like a piece of something. I can find out what that says. Evil men have surrounded me like dogs. They have trapped me. They have bitten my arms and legs. So this is telling you that they're actually biting at him in the International Children's Bible. So let me actually see what this really says. One second here. You know what? I'm just going to stay here and I'm going to look it up real quick, real fast. Because if the NIV, the International Children's Bible is telling you that somebody's biting at his arms and his legs, right? That's completely not the same as my hands and my feet or that being pierced, right? So let me see. In the International Children's Bible, what is this verse? Psalm 22. It says, evil men have surrounded me like dogs. They have trapped me. They have bitten my arms and my legs. Verse 15 says, my strength has dried up like a piece of a broken pot. My tongue sticks to the top of my mouth. You lay me in the dust of death. Evil men have surrounded me like dogs. They have trapped me and they have bitten my arms and legs. So this doesn't sound anything like a crucifixion according to the International Children's Bible. They have bitten my arms and legs. That's not a crucifixion. My hands and feet have shriveled. The New Revised Standard Version Catholic Edition. For dogs are all around me. A company of evildoers encircles me. My hands and my feet have shriveled. Now it's telling you in Psalm 22:16 in their footnote, meaning of the Hebrew is uncertain. How is it uncertain when all these other people got translations of it, right? And what does it mean? My hands and feet have shriveled. If they hung them up, would that shrivel? Like, that's not like it's, I don't even know where they got that from. So it sounds like somebody's being hunted and pinned down. New English translation, Psalm 22:13-16. They open up their mouths to devour me like a roaring lion that rips its prey. My strength drains away like water. All my bones are dislocated. My heart is like wax. It melts away inside me. The roof of my mouth is as dry as a piece of pottery. My tongue sticks to my gums. Yet set me in the dust of death. Yes, wild dogs surround me. A gang of evil men crowd around me. Like a lion, they pin my hands and feet. So we got other translations that tell you, like a lion, they pin my hands and feet. So verse 6, a reproach of men and despise of the people. So if we're going to go with Psalm 22 being about Jesus, the Christians will say, well, see, it says he's a reproach of men and he's despised of the people. Well, that sounds like Isaiah 53. But what about Psalm 31:11? I was a reproach among all my enemies, but especially among my neighbors, and a fear to mine acquaintance. They did see me without fled from me. So I don't know why that's translated like that, but that's what it says. Psalm 42:10, as with a sword in my bones, my enemies reproach me while they say daily, where is thy God? So we see in other verses, the psalmist is talking about, most of these psalms are written by David. He's a reproach and he's got enemies all through the Psalms. So trying to isolate Psalm 22:6 and say, well, it sounds like Isaiah 53, then you're going to have to go through all the Psalms and say they're about Jesus, because there's a lot of reproach of men and a lot of people being despised in the Psalms. And most of the time, just talking about David. So Matthew 27:34, and we went over this earlier, but I just want to reiterate. They gave him sour wine mingled with gall to drink, but when he had tasted it, he would not drink it. Psalm 69:19, thou hast known my reproach. Here we go again. And my shame and my dishonor. My adversaries are all before me, or all before thee, right? Psalm 69:21, they also gave me gall for my food, and my thirst, they gave me vinegar to drink. So this is where the Christians say, see, that's exactly what the Matthew says, right? But again, which translation are you going to go with? Are you going to go with the Septuagint that calls him a sinner in Psalm 22:1? Or are you going to go with the Septuagint because it says pin hands and feet? Like a lion. So let's get back into this like a lion thing. Because dogs, Lexham English Bible, because dogs have surrounded me, a gang of evildoers has encircled me like a lion. They are at my hands and my feet. Modern English version. For dogs have encompassed me, the assembly of the wicked has enclosed me like a lion. They pin my hands and my feet. How are all these other translations getting it right? But the King James version uses pierce my hands and feet, and they remove the word like a lion. We got lions all over the Psalms with the same context. Psalm 22 and 21. So we see in Psalm 22 and 13 and 14, it talks about animals and lions, right? We got bulls of Bashan. So we got the whole context of animals being personified as people, right? Save me from the lion's mouth, for thou hast heard me from the horns of the unicorns. We even got unicorns, which most people will tell you that's just a rhinoceros, because the one horn rhinoceros, the uni, right? Horn, right? We see lions personified as enemies in many of the Psalms, as an enemy in many of the Psalms. The context of Psalm 22 is consistent with Psalm 22:16 to be speaking of lions, as the Masoretic text says. So in Psalm 7:2, lest he tear my soul like a lion. Psalm 10:9, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion. So if we got lions in Psalm 22 and 14, and then we got lions again in Psalm 22:16, it would make sense to have lions again in Psalm 22 and 21, like it says, save me from the lion's mouth. What's wrong with that? Why would the Masoretic text manipulate something that is already has a theme to it? That right there is just being dishonest. Like a lion, Psalm 17 and 2. Like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, as it were a young lion lurking in secret. Psalm 35:17. Lord, how long wilt thou look on? Rescue my soul from their destructions, my darling from the lions. Psalm 57:4. My soul is among lions, and I lie even among them that are set on fire, even the sons of men, whose teeth are spears and arrows, and their tongue a sharp sword. Psalm 58 and 6. Break their teeth, O God, in their mouth. Break out the teeth of the young lions, O Lord. So to try to lie and say the Masoretic text is trying to cover up something by putting like a lion, when it's in context with the whole chapter, it's in context with the Psalms describing lions everywhere, who's really telling us the truth? Let him deliver him, seeing he delighted in him. Who was delighted in Psalm 22? He trusted on the Lord that he would deliver him. Let him deliver him, seeing he delighted in him. Now, what about David, who it's actually talking about? Psalm 18:19. He brought me forth also into a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. Psalm 22 and Psalm 2 Samuel 22 and 20. Same thing. He brought me forth also into a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. 1 Samuel 17:37. Moreover, David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he would deliver me from the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said to David, go and the Lord be with you. So the Most High has already been saving David from lions, literal and physical, for a long time here. So for David to be describing lions in Psalm 22 and 16 makes perfect sense in context and very consistent with what David has going on, right? It just makes so much sense. Who delivers David, his servant, from the deadly sword? Psalm 144 and 10, the one who gives salvation to kings. So we see kings get salvation, even though they can, be warriors and save people, as David saved the people in Keilah in 1 Samuel 23. It says the one who gives salvation to kings, who delivers David, his servant, from the deadly sword. What does it say in Psalm 22 and 20? Deliver me from the sword, my precious life from the power of the dog. So again, consistent with David. Psalm 22 and 16, for dogs have surrounded me. When you see everything together in context, it's all pointing to David. David everywhere. Jesus wasn't saved from the sword. They pierced him at the end with a spear, right? Or a javelin, however you want to term that. But he wasn't saved from the sword, was he? Deliver me from the sword. That wasn't a form of execution. They hung him up, and his lungs and stuff was all jacked up, but he couldn't breathe. It was like crucifixion was like a torture. They didn't stab him to kill him. They only stabbed him with that javelin or whatever just to make sure he was dead. That was, if you read the book of John, it kind of tells you that. So we see David being saved from the sword. In context, his name is even used in Psalm 144 and 10, so you can't play no games. Now, we talked about Bashan and the giants earlier, right? Psalm 22 and 12, many bulls have surrounded me. Strong bulls of Bashan have beset me around. Were any bulls in the New Testament messing with Jesus? No. Now, what is David talking about when he calls them bulls of Bashan? Excuse me. What is so special about Bashan, and what kind of bulls is he talking about? Does Jesus say anything about Bashan? I don't think so. So Bashan was a place of giants, and David had battles with these giants and other warriors of Bashan. Psalm 135:11. Sihon, king of the Amorites, Og of Bashan, and all the kingdoms of Canaan. Well, we read in Israel's past in Deuteronomy 3 and 11, for only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. Is it not in Rabbah of the children of Ammon? 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. So we see giants. This is David's reference to Bashan. That's why he's talking about strong bulls of Bashan have beset me around, right? 2 Samuel 21:16. Then Ishbi-Benob, who was one of the sons of the giant, that weight of whose bronze spear was 300 shekels, who was bearing a new sword, thought he could kill David. Didn't David say, you saved me from the sword? 2 Samuel 21:18. Now it happened after that there was again a battle with the Philistines of Gob. Then Sibbecai, the Hushathite, killed Saph, who was one of the sons of the giant. 2 Samuel 21:22. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath and fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. So we see David battling with giants from Bashan, born of the giant, right? When did Jesus deal with anybody from Bashan who was a giant? Because that's what it says in Psalm, right? Strong bulls of Bashan having circled around me. What's the context of the strong bulls of Bashan? Bashan is known for their giants. This ain't talked about in the New Testament. So again, are we talking about animals or humans in Psalm 22:13? They gaped upon me with their mouths as a ravening and a roaring lion. So right before Psalm 22:16, David's talking about lions. We see the word lion used here in verse 13. So we see it used again in verse 16. Why is it so hard to understand the context? The argument is that the Masoretic text changed it, but the context is throughout the chapter. There are bulls of Bashan surrounding him, lions attacking. This is the personification of battles Jesus never had to deal with. So show me Bashan in the New Testament. Show me lions or bulls used to describe the enemies of Jesus. David had near-death encounters in battle. Psalm 22:15. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaveth to my jaws. Thou hast brought me into the dust of death. Right? Now, how do we know this is true? 2 Samuel 21:15-17. Moreover, the Philistines had yet war again with Israel, and David went down, and his servants with him, and fought against the Philistines, and David waxed faint. And Ishbi-Benob, which was of the sons of the giant, the weight of whose spear weighed 300 shekels of brass in weight, he being girded with the new sword, thought to have slain David. But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, succored him, and smote the Philistine and killed him. Then the men of David sware unto him, saying, Thou shalt go no more out with us to battle, that thou quench not the light of Israel. So when David's saying, my tongue cleaveth to my jaws, and that has brought me into the dust of death, he had a near-death experience because the giant almost killed him. They had to tell him, here, your majesty, you done fighting. They trying to quench the light of Israel. Right? We had to come and save you. Your battle days is over. You're doing too much. Because we know David wasn't an armchair quarterback. This is a figure of speech, of course. Thou hast brought me into the dust of death. Psalm 44:25. For our soul is bowed down to the dust. Our belly cleaveth unto the earth. Psalm 119:25. My soul cleaveth unto the dust. Quicken thou me according to thy word. Just a figure of speech to say I'm really going through it. It's a bad time, right? I'm really down right now. So is this a battle or a crucifixion in Psalm 22? We know David did not die in battle, but fought and beat his enemies. So what happened to Jesus? Acts 10:39. And we are witnesses of all things which he did both in the land of the Jews and in Jerusalem, whom they slew and hanged on a tree. That don't sound like you were saved from no sword, or any bulls of Bashan did that. No giants dealt with you. They hung you from a tree. And it says they got witnesses to it, right? Dogs is people. So again, dogs have compassed me. The assembly of the wicked have enclosed me. They pierced my hands and feet. We already know that's a bogus translation at the end. But first, I must point out again that animals are used to portray the enemies of David. 2 Samuel 16:9. Then said Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, unto the king, why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over, I pray thee, and take off his head. Oops. So we see people using dogs, to describe, unwanted things. Dogs have compassed me. People say, am I a dead dog's head? We see this throughout the Tanakh. Dogs aren't looked so favorably in the Tanakh always. You know what I mean? We know the dogs shut their mouth in Egypt. Dogs, you can't use dogs for certain things in the Tanakh. Not to get into that, but long story short. So this is just a figure of speech when he says dogs have compassed me. It's not literal dogs surrounding David, but things that people don't like. Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? So even today, people call people dogs. They call them female dogs. I mean, it's a word people use to describe something that they don't like, even to today, right? It's just the use of the language. So I'm going to stop there. This is halfway through. I got 30 more slides dealing with Psalm 22. And we see clearly this is talking about David's life. None of it would apply to Jesus. And unless you want to call him a sinner, and that just kills the whole New Testament doctrine. So, where do you want to go from there?